Every day your mind is attacked by opinions, by emotions, by the noise of a world that demands your reaction. You are pulled, provoked, and manipulated. But what if you could become untouchable? What if no insult could wound you, no betrayal could shake you, and no chaos could break your control? In this lesson, drawn from the ruthless genius of Machiavelli, we will uncover 7 dark principles that will make your mind a fortress, impenetrable, strategic, and feared. Emotional sovereignty in the theater of power. Emotion is the most treacherous actor. It performs without discipline, speaks without reason, and destroys empires in a single outburst. Machiavelli understood that the human heart, when ungoverned, becomes a tyrant. The man who cannot command his emotions will soon be commanded by others. To be mentally untouchable, one must first establish dominion over the chaos within, for power begins not in the world outside, but in the realm of one's own mind. Every conflict, betrayal, or disappointment you face is a test of sovereignty. The weak crumble under emotional weight, spilling their reactions for the world to exploit. The strong, however, remain statuesque, cold as marble, deliberate as kings. Their silence unsettles those who expect rage. Their calm provokes those who hunger for reaction. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must learn to simulate passion while never surrendering to it. He must appear moved by loyalty, anger, or affection, yet never let those forces dictate his hand. Emotion can be used as a weapon, but never allowed to be the wielder. Imagine a ruler who acts out of fury. His soldiers die in the fires of his impatience. His alliances dissolve in the heat of his temper. Now imagine a ruler who feels the same fury, but does not display it. He studies it, measures it, and releases it only when it serves a greater purpose. This ruler bends his emotions to strategy. He does not suppress them, he uses them. That is sovereignty, not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of its direction. The world provokes you because it seeks to control you. The manipulator does not need chains, he only needs your emotional response. He offends you to steer your attention. He flatters you to disarm your logic. He frightens you to paralyze your will. Those who are ruled by feelings dance to the music of others. The emotionally sovereign man, however, stands apart. He observes his own reactions as though watching another being entirely. When insulted, he studies the intent behind the insult. When praised, he questions the motive of the praise. His emotions are not extinguished but tamed, like lions in a cage that roar only when commanded. Machiavelli believed that appearances must often serve as armor. To remain calm while others lose control is to command their respect and their confusion. The one who cannot read your emotions cannot predict your moves. You become a mystery, and mystery itself is power. The mentally untouchable man walks through storms with the face of serenity, not because he feels no wind, but because he refuses to let the wind decide his direction. Emotional sovereignty requires discipline, and discipline is forged through self-awareness. You must know your triggers, your weaknesses, your inner rebellions. Observe them without judgment, as a strategist studies an enemy's camp. Ask yourself, who profits from my anger, from my sadness, from my joy? The answer will reveal who holds power over you. Each time you reclaim that power, each time you choose logic over impulse, you build your throne higher. Consider also that emotion is contagious. When you remain composed amid chaos, your calm infects others. Panic, on the other hand, spreads like fire. A sovereign mind can extinguish it with a single glance. This is why generals inspire armies not through tears but through presence. Their stillness becomes a command. The same law governs every domain: business, relationships, leadership. The one who remains unmoved dictates the rhythm of the exchange. To achieve this level of mastery, one must cultivate inner distance. When something wounds you, pause before reacting. That pause is your kingdom's wall. Within that pause, logic awakens and impulse dies. In that stillness, you are reborn as your own ruler. You will discover that most problems are not assaults upon your reality, but tests of your composure. Those who pass such tests rise above manipulation and become ungovernable. A mind that cannot be provoked is a fortress no weapon can breach. The world will still rage, deceive, and tempt, but it will find no doorway into you. Machiavelli would remind you that emotion is necessary. It fuels ambition, sharpens will, and gives color to existence. But like fire, it must remain contained. When fire serves the master, it warms the castle. When the fire rules the master, it burns the kingdom to ash. True power, therefore, begins not in conquest but in restraint. The prince who conquers himself first is the only one fit to rule others. Emotional sovereignty is not coldness, it is control. It is the quiet authority that commands without shouting, that decides without trembling, and that sees without reacting. The emotionally sovereign man does not escape pain, he transforms it into strategy. He does not fear betrayal, he anticipates it. He does not deny emotion, he crowns it as his servant and not his king. The power of perception. In the court of influence, perception is the invisible crown. It is the art of appearing powerful before you truly are, and of maintaining control long after it has slipped from your hands. Machiavelli understood that reality matters far less than the illusion one can sustain. A ruler's survival depends not only on strength, but on how that strength is perceived by others. The perception of wisdom often commands more loyalty than wisdom itself, and the image of virtue often inspires more trust than true righteousness ever could. To be mentally untouchable, one must learn to shape how the world sees them, for men act not upon truth, but upon their belief of truth. In every kingdom, ancient or modern, the masses see what they wish to see. They crave symbols, stories, and faces that affirm their fears or hopes. Machiavelli observed that the wise ruler understands this hunger and feeds it with calculated imagery. He knows that perception can turn weakness into mystery, failure into strategy, and silence into authority. The prince who can master appearances does not need to explain himself. His image speaks before his tongue does. The same law governs all realms, politics, business, relationships. Those who shape perception rule the unseen currents that move people's hearts. Perception is not deception, it is strategy. It is the discipline of managing what others believe while knowing precisely who you are. A lion does not show its exhaustion to the herd, it hides the wound beneath its mane. The wise conceal vulnerability not out of vanity, but because exposure invites predation. The world, Machiavelli warns, respects only the appearance of strength. Therefore, even when uncertainty gnaws at your spirit, you must project composure. Even when your plans falter, your face must not tremble. People draw power from your confidence, and the moment they sense doubt, they retreat like soldiers abandoning a fallen general. Consider how quickly perception changes the balance of power. A single rumor can dethrone a king. A single gesture can turn allies into adversaries. Yet, the one who anticipates how others will interpret his actions holds the advantage. Machiavelli would say that fortune favors the ruler who stages his presence like a performance. The audience need not know the truth. They need only to believe the story he tells through his behavior. To walk with measured calm, to speak with deliberate weight, to command through silence. These are not acts of arrogance, but of design. For people are drawn not to those who explain themselves endlessly, but to those who seem certain even in ambiguity. In the realm of perception, subtlety reigns supreme. The wise man knows when to speak and when to withhold, when to reveal and when to obscure. Every gesture, every silence, every word becomes a thread in the fabric of perception. The weak waste energy defending their image, the strong shape it quietly. They understand that reputation once formed is a weapon sharper than steel. The mere belief that you are unshakable makes others hesitate before challenging you. Fear and respect often stem not from your true power, but from the perception that your power is absolute. This principle extends beyond rulers. It governs every human exchange. When you enter a room, your posture speaks before your mouth does. Your eyes declare confidence or surrender. Your composure tells others whether to challenge or obey. Perception is the currency of all interaction, and the mentally untouchable learn to spend it wisely. They do not seek approval, for they know that chasing validation betrays insecurity. Instead, they cultivate an aura that demands it naturally. They wear certainty like armor, not because they are never uncertain, but because they refuse to let uncertainty become visible. Machiavelli would whisper that appearances must be engineered with the precision of a military campaign. He would advise that you control your narrative before others write it for you. In this world, truth is often irrelevant. Belief is what governs behavior. To appear just is to be treated as just. To appear dangerous is to be feared, even without violence. Those who fail to manage perception are condemned to live under the shadows others cast upon them. Those who master it rise above judgment, because their image becomes untouchable, even when their reality trembles beneath the surface. Yet perception is a double-edged sword. It grants immense power but demands constant awareness. The illusion you create must be tended like a garden. Too much artifice, and you are exposed as a manipulator. Too little, and you are forgotten as ordinary. The key lies in balance, to let your actions occasionally confirm the legend others believe. Feed their faith with small proofs, but never reveal the whole truth. Mystery is your ally, for it makes others fill in the blanks with their own awe. The less they know of your weaknesses, the more they will imagine your strengths. The mentally untouchable understand that perception is not vanity. It is survival. To control how others see you is to control how they treat you. It is the unseen law of influence that governs all hierarchies. The world may not always be fair, but it always believes what it sees, and those who command the vision command the outcome. Machiavelli knew that men are simple in their desires. They long to admire something greater than themselves. Give them that image, and they will follow you, defend you, even worship you without ever realizing that the power they revere was crafted by your own deliberate hand. Strategic coldness power is not sustained by kindness. It is preserved through clarity, restraint, and the willingness to be cold when sentiment demands warmth. Machiavelli understood that mercy without measure weakens the ruler, and emotion without discipline betrays the strategist. To be mentally untouchable, one must learn the art of strategic coldness, the ability to act with precision even when the heart rebels. For the world is not governed by fairness but by advantage, and the one who hesitates in pity often becomes prey to the unfeeling. Strategic coldness is not cruelty, it is the armor of reason worn by those who refuse to be broken by emotion or manipulation. In every age, rulers fall not because they lack strength, but because they lack distance. They grow too attached, too trusting, too merciful, believing that goodwill guarantees loyalty. Yet loyalty built on sentiment is as fragile as glass. It shines beautifully until the first stone of betrayal strikes. Machiavelli warned that men are loyal only while it benefits them. When the tide of advantage turns, affection dissolves into convenience. The wise ruler, therefore, must temper compassion with foresight. He may love, but never depend on love. He may trust, but never without leverage. Strategic coldness is not the absence of feeling. It is the refusal to let feeling decide the future. A man who is strategically cold does not rage when deceived, nor does he crumble when abandoned. He anticipated such outcomes long before they arrived. He does not build his castle on emotion but on calculation. Every relationship, every alliance, every promise is measured by its purpose. If the purpose fades, he withdraws quietly, leaving no trace of bitterness, only clarity. This is the kind of mental sovereignty that unsettles others. For most men are slaves to reaction, while the cold strategist moves with deliberate calm, untouched by chaos. Machiavelli taught that those who rule by compassion alone invite ruin, for mercy unguarded becomes a signal of weakness. When enemies perceive your softness, they test it. When allies sense your lenience, they exploit it. A ruler must know when to be harsh and when to forgive, but he must also understand that forgiveness should always serve a greater objective. To spare an enemy who will rise again is to strike against oneself. To punish without purpose is to waste power. Thus, coldness becomes a strategy of balance, a calculated withdrawal of emotion in favor of endurance. The cold strategist understands timing as the highest form of intelligence. He knows that reactions given too soon reveal desperation, while silence disorients opponents. He knows that in moments of tension, calmness can be more intimidating than fury. The untrained mind interprets coldness as heartlessness, but the wise recognize it as control. It is the stillness of a blade before it strikes, the quiet of the storm before it breaks. True coldness does not seek destruction. It ensures survival. This principle governs every realm of human interaction. In personal relationships, it teaches one to detach from emotional dependency. The one who begs for affection loses command over their dignity. In business, it prevents the strategist from making decisions driven by fear or greed. In leadership, it shields one from flattery and deceit. To be cold strategically is to refuse to be enslaved by desire, anger, or sorrow. It is to let intellect guide impulse and purpose guide passion. Machiavelli would say that human nature cannot be trusted to act rationally when stirred by emotion. Therefore, the wise man creates a distance between what he feels and what he does. He wears calmness like armor, concealing both excitement and pain beneath an unmoved expression. Those who observe him mistake his restraint for indifference, not realizing that his silence conceals precision. His stillness is his strength. He allows others to act in haste, to speak in anger, to reveal their weaknesses openly. Then, when the time is right, he moves decisively, with neither hesitation nor remorse. Strategic coldness demands that one embrace discomfort. It requires walking away from situations that appeal to the heart but threaten the mind. It asks you to remain composed when insulted, detached when manipulated, and patient when provoked. Most fail this test because their pride hungers for reaction. But the cold strategist feeds on patience. He knows that silence is not surrender but surveillance, that each moment of restraint builds a clearer map of the battlefield. To him, control is the ultimate expression of power, There is also a sacred irony in this discipline. The colder you become, the warmer your perception grows. You begin to see humanity more clearly, not through the fog of hope or despair, but through the lens of truth. You understand the motives of others, not because you despise them, but because you are no longer blinded by sentiment. You realize that cruelty often disguises insecurity, that kindness can conceal manipulation, and that neutrality can be the sharpest weapon of all. Strategic coldness is not about rejecting humanity. It is about mastering it from a higher vantage point. A ruler who practices this art can stand alone amid betrayal, loss, and chaos, untouched by the tremors that shatter ordinary minds. He may appear unfeeling, yet he feels deeply. Only he refuses to act impulsively upon those feelings. His calmness becomes a weapon, his detachment a shield. He sees through deception, not because he is cynical, but because he has learned to observe without emotional distortion. To the world, he appears like marble, silent, cold, but within him burns a steady fire of calculation and purpose. Strategic coldness, in truth, is a form of mercy to oneself. It preserves dignity where emotion would destroy it. It keeps purpose alive where despair would suffocate it. It transforms pain into wisdom, betrayal into foresight, and loneliness into command. It is the highest discipline of the mind, where reason reigns supreme over impulse, and control is valued above comfort. The art of silent control. There is a power more commanding than speech, more precise than argument, and more unsettling than threat. The power of silence. Machiavelli understood that the strongest rulers were often the quietest, those who let the world interpret their silence, rather than waste their authority explaining it. Words are the currency of the common man, but silence is the weapon of the sovereign. To be mentally untouchable, one must master the art of silent control, the ability to influence, intimidate, and command without uttering a word. Silence is not emptiness, it is a presence so vast that it forces others to fill it with their imagination, their insecurity, and their fear. The world is loud because the weak crave attention. They speak endlessly to prove their worth, to justify their existence, to fill the void of uncertainty within them. But the powerful understand that silence unsettles those who depend on validation. Machiavelli would say that in the court of influence, the one who speaks least often holds the most authority. For every word is a revelation of thought, and those who reveal too much surrender their mystery. Silence, by contrast, conceals the edges of the mind. It transforms ordinary men into enigmas, and enigmas are rarely challenged. In politics and in life, silence creates space in which others expose themselves. The manipulator grows anxious in the presence of quiet strength. He speaks too much, revealing his intent. The impatient grow nervous, filling the air with words that betray their fears. The wise ruler remains calm, allowing others to build their own traps. Machiavelli wrote that men are not destroyed by their enemies, but by their own nature. Silence gives them the rope with which to hang themselves. The art of silent control lies not in resisting speech, but in using the absence of speech as a mirror that reflects the truth of others. Those who master silence understand timing as deeply as they understand human nature. They know when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. Each word they release is measured, deliberate, and final. To remain quiet in the face of accusation is not weakness, it is dominance. The louder one's critics become, the more powerful silence appears. It forces observers to question, does he not respond because he is guilty, or because he is above it? In that uncertainty lies control. The mind of the crowd cannot tolerate silence. It must fill it with assumptions. Those assumptions, when guided subtly, become the architect of your power. In personal conflict, silence dismantles aggression. When an adversary expects retaliation and receives only calmness, his fury loses direction. He swings wildly in the dark, exhausting himself against an opponent who never reveals emotion. The mentally untouchable do not waste energy in verbal combat. They let silence echo louder than insult. A single moment of composed stillness can shatter arrogance more efficiently than hours of argument. The silent man is not defenseless. He is a strategist observing the battlefield before striking. Machiavelli also saw silence as a tool of manipulation. He knew that what is unsaid can provoke curiosity, and curiosity leads others closer, seeking understanding. The more they seek, the more vulnerable they become. A ruler who withholds his plans commands more fear than one who announces them. Mystery breeds caution, and caution breeds obedience. The silent ruler becomes a specter of control. His unpredictability forces others to act conservatively, always unsure of his next move. This is the highest form of authority, control through uncertainty. In a world obsessed with expression, silence becomes rebellion. It defies the expectation to react, to justify, to explain. The one who remains silent in chaos becomes an axis around which the storm turns. People are drawn to stillness because it feels like stability. They mistake composure for strength, and often it becomes strength in truth. Silence transforms perception. It creates an aura of wisdom, even when the silent one merely observes. Over time, this perception solidifies into respect, and respect matures into influence. The art of silent control also extends inward. It is not only about withholding words, but mastering inner silence, the stillness of thought amid emotional storms. Machiavelli understood that the mind's noise weakens judgment. When you learn to quiet your inner dialogue, you see patterns others overlook. You become patient where others panic, deliberate where others rush. The greatest victories are not won through aggression, but through the clarity that silence brings. In stillness, every movement becomes intentional, every decision a calculated act of power. To practice this art, one must resist the urge to explain everything. Let others misunderstand you, let them speculate. Every clarification reduces your mystery, and every defense weakens your authority. When they question your motives, say little. When they insult you, remain composed. When they expect emotion, give them reflection. Your silence will haunt their thoughts more than your words ever could. For in silence, they see themselves, their guilt, their weakness, their insecurity, reflected back upon them. Those who cannot endure silence reveal their own fragility. They need constant sound to drown the whispers of their doubts. The one who thrives in silence, however, becomes untouchable, for he has conquered the need to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. He moves like a shadow, commanding respect not through noise but through presence. His calmness becomes legend, his restraint mistaken for divine certainty. People follow him because they fear what they cannot read. Silence, therefore, is both shield and sword. It protects the strategist from emotional exposure and strikes fear into those who rely on reaction. The art of silent control is not about isolation, but domination through subtlety. It is the invisible thread that guides every conversation, every conflict, every negotiation. The world mistakes sound for strength, yet the wise know that the loudest voice rarely holds power. It is the quiet mind that governs the room, the silent gaze that commands obedience, the word unspoken that bends the will of others without a single gesture.